is canonically the weakest Robot Master from every Mega Man game? Starting with Mega Man 1, we already know from the video on the strongest Robot Masters that we have two main categories here. Very strong and very weak, which I guess is pretty self-explanatory, but anyway. Elecman is obviously in the camp of being super strong. This guy can shoot out giant bolts of lightning, and lightning is recorded to strike at temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun, which is absurd. On top of that, this lightning is able to break blocks in the game, so you know it means business. Plus, Elecman was already declared the strongest, so he can't be the weakest, right? I would never do that in any of my videos, that's never happened before. Fireman was also in the conversation of the strongest Robot Master on account of his giant walls of fire that he shoots out at a very consistent fire rate. Fire is already a dangerous thing. I mean, we've all seen that one clip of that streamer smoking and playing Minecraft or something, and then the trash can catches on fire and then his whole house. That was ridiculous. Also, that's not funny. Stop laughing. I can hear you guys, and laughing at a man having his house burned down, it is extremely out of pocket and you should all be ashamed. Anyway, this should be proof enough that fire is a super powerful weapon, especially when in the hands of Fireman. Anyway, next we actually have a semi-medium tier Robot Master. I know I said they're all very strong or very weak, but this guy is just like regular strong. I'm sorry guys, I gotta keep it 99 with y'all because sometimes I do be lying. Anyway, I'm of course talking about Bomb Man. And bombs are typically pretty powerful weapons of destruction, but these aren't like nuclear bombs or anything. I mean, they can't even blow up the same blocks that Elecman's lightning is able to break, which is frankly just weird. But at the same time, I'm not taking any chances with literal bombs, so while obviously he is not the strongest, Bomb Man cannot be the weakest either. Next, we have Iceman, and I don't really know how powerful this guy is, to be honest. I mean, in-game, his ice is pretty powerful, it does a lot of damage, but we don't have any data on how cold this stuff actually is. Maybe he's just useful on a hot summer day, but at the same time, maybe he's also able to cause permanent frostbite with just one small touch. I would say Iceman is on the weaker side of these Robot Masters, but I just can't say with confidence how weak or strong he canonically is, which leaves us with Cutman and Gutsman. Now, most people are probably screaming at their screens right now saying Cutman should obviously be the weakest, but wait guys, let's be patient here and hear both of these guys out. Cutman is probably the weakest because he's literally just a guy with scissors on his head and the ability to throw those scissors. But allegedly, these scissors can cut down trees. I mean, that is a wildly inefficient way to cut down trees, but that does mean Cutman isn't as weak as we might think, right? But what about Gutsman? I mean, he's just strong, right? Like, he just lifts heavy rocks and attacks you with his dummy thick body, which makes this decision actually fairly difficult. Which is weaker, someone who is strong or somebody with scissors on their head? Okay, you know what, now that I say that out loud, I think we can all agree that Cutman is the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 1. Mega Man 2 has much more powerful Robot Masters on average than Mega Man 1, so this will be even harder than last time. First of all though, we do have Flashman who can freeze time. I'm not getting into this with you guys again. Freezing time is dummy powerful, so Flashman cannot be the weakest. Airman shoots out multiple tornadoes at a time, which is a horrifying thought. I don't know if these are literal full-size tornadoes like the ones we have to deal with in real life, but if they are, then Airman is super powerful. If they are not though, maybe he's just a big old sentient air conditioner. I don't know though, the way he blows Mega Man around makes him seem pretty powerful. Pause. So Airman cannot be the weakest. Heatman once again has control over fire, and I don't want you guys laughing at that poor man who lost his house in that fire, so I'm sure we could just agree that Heatman is not the weakest. You guys are just really unhinged, by the way. That's not a funny clip. Stop giggling. Rashman has bombs, and unlike Bomb Man, these bombs actually do blow up walls, which is a great improvement. Though I guess Crashman is technically stupid, since if you stand still in his boss fight, he will not hurt you, but let's just ignore that. Quickman, of course, isn't as powerful as he seems like he is during his boss fight, but that doesn't mean that he's weak. I mean, he's pretty fast, he's a robot, and he throws a lot of boomerangs. Obviously, compared to a lot of these guys, that isn't really anything, but that's still nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I wouldn't want to fight Quickman in real life, and some of you guys don't even want to fight him in the game. My subscribers probably do, though. Those guys are really good at Mega Man. It's crazy. You should see them play, or you should just subscribe and play yourself. Metal Man is similar in power to Quickman. He's obviously not as fast, but instead of throwing boomerangs, he throws sharp saw blades, and like, to me, that's actually scarier than dealing with Quickman. Metal Man is a robot with precision aim and strength, so having him throw saw blades at me would be terrifying. Even having some random guy on the street throwing saw blades at people would be a horrific disaster, so Metal Man cannot be the weakest, which only leaves Bubble Man and Wood Man. Now, this is a very hard decision to make because they are both incredibly weak. In fact, the main challenge in Bubble Man's boss fight is not getting hit by the spikes on his ceiling, which I'm sure he did not put there. But really, what do these guys even do? I mean, Bubble Man floats around and shoots bubbles at you as well as little bursts of water. And Woodman, well, he summons leaves. So what does that make him, about as powerful as the season of autumn? I thought this would be a lot closer, but leaves are not powerful. In fact, they are the weakest attack we've had to witness so far. So Woodman is definitely the weakest Robot Master in Mega Man 2. Mega Man 3 is chopped full of weak Robot Masters. I mean, literally every single Robot Master is weak in this game, so we're about to officially have a mid-off. Last video, we said that Magnet Man was the most powerful, just on account of the fact that magnets can cause a lot of problems in real life because of how everything runs off of electronics and stuff. But if Magnet Man is the strongest, you know the other Robot Masters are going to be doo-doo. Well, okay, not doo-doo, but weak canonically. That's what this video is. And Shadow Man is the perfect example because I love Shadow Man. This is one of the coolest Robot Masters of all time because he's a ninja. But unfortunately, compared to all the other ridiculous Robot Masters, being a ninja just isn't enough because there are human beings in real life who are also ninjas. So while Shadow Man is not the strongest, he obviously is not the weakest either. Snake Man is a weird case though. This is another Robot Master that I really do love the design of, but he just doesn't feel super strong. I mean, he shoots out robot snakes, which is scary, but like, aren't real life snakes scarier? I don't know, maybe these robot snakes have venom or something too. Either way, he's not the weakest. Needle Man can't be the weakest either. He's lame and I do not like him, but he does have sharp, pointy objects, which is a very low bar, but again, this is Mega Man 3. These Robot Masters tried to bring as little to the table as possible. Gemini Man, though, is just weird. He is an alien robot that shoots lasers. We don't know how powerful these lasers are, but surely he's not the weakest Robot Master from this game, right? We could agree on that. Hard Man is a big fat robot that shoots his fist at you, and that probably hurts. This is a really weird Robot Master just in general, but especially in the name and design department, but he is able to punch, so he's not the weakest. The weakest is going to come down to either Top Man or Spark Man. Now, Spark Man might seem powerful because we've talked about how electricity can be dangerous, especially when in the hands of Elect Man, but these are just sparks. Have you ever had a spark fall onto your hand or something? It does not hurt at all. That's because sparks are probably the weakest form of electricity. So you'd think this would be the weakest Robot Master since his one attack does not even hurt, but there's also Top Man. This guy is a living top. A toy. I'm speechless. But Top Man is the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 3. Mega Man 4 has another Robot Master that can stop time. Bright Man. So yeah, Bright Man is not going to be the weakest. Drill Man shoots out giant exploding drills at you, which surely isn't easy to deal with, so he can't be the weakest. Dive Man is basically a robot submarine hybrid that has tracking missiles, so he can't be the weakest either, even though those missiles are horrible at tracking, but that's besides the point. And most of you may be thinking that Toad Man is the weakest because he's just a frog that stands there and dances, but if you actually let him do his thing for long enough, he makes it rain. Acid! He makes it acid rain! And that's scary. I don't know if this is like weather pollution acid rain or literal acid raining from the sky, but either way, this is not good for both the environment and anyone around. So note to self, don't let Toad Man dance. Pharaoh Man is a literal pharaoh that has the power of the sun. At least I think that's what he has, that sun-looking plasma stuff. I don't know what it is, but I think it is, right? I mean, this could be a big factor for how powerful Pharaoh Man is, but I'm assuming it's the sun. If someone in the comment section tells me this stuff is actually like sand or something at the beginning of his stage, I'm just gonna ignore them and pretend I didn't read the comment, mostly because I don't know how to read, but also because I refuse to accept that as reality. Dustman, however, sucks because he's a vacuum cleaner. No one's ever made that joke before, right? Well, while he may suck, he also shoots out big chunks of junk, and that surely hurts to be on the receiving end of. And even if you toughed it out, it can't be sanitary. You might get an infection because this is literal garbage that's being shot at you, meaning he cannot be the weakest. So the weakest Robot Master comes down to either Skull Man or Ring Man. Ring Man just runs around and throws rings at you, and yeah, that would probably hurt at least a little bit, but in reality, this guy is just a jerk. He's very weak. Skull Man, however, is scary because he has a skull for a head. He mostly just walks up to you though and turns his shield on, which is a strange way to attack. But luckily for Skull Man, he does have a gun arm and he doesn't know how to use it. And for that reason alone, I think Ring Man is actually the weakest. Just because metal rings are weaker than a gun arm. I do really like Ring Man, for the record. He's one of my favorite Robot Masters, but yeah, this guy is super weak. So sorry, Ring Man, but you are the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 4. Mega Man 5 has Gravity Man, and like his name says, this guy can control gravity. That is literal insanity, so he cannot be the weakest. Napalm Man is also so powerful that he got banned in Vietnam, which is breaking the fourth wall. That's a pretty hard wall to break, and you have to be decently powerful to break it, so ignoring the fact that Napalm Man has, napalm grenades, I think we all know he's not the weakest. Stone Man is just a pile of bricks and he throws rocks at you. That's very rude and could potentially be fairly powerful, but Crystal Man also throws a bunch of rocks at you, but these rocks are extra shiny and smooth. I think they're called crystals. Either way, neither of these are the weakest, as I'm sure you could guess. Gyro Man might seem like he would be weak just because of how weird he is, but he shoots out these spinning blades that look like they belong on top of a helicopter, and if I power scale these blades to be a similar level as helicopter blades, these are actually super dangerous, and Gyro Man is very powerful. Plus, Gyro Man can fly, so yeah, there is that. Now, Charge Man, I hate this guy a lot, but he is a train. He could just charge into you, and that would surely hurt. It's never fun to get hit by a train, which means the weakest Robot Master is either Wave Man or Star Man. Wave Man is very weak. He shoots a little torpedo thing at you and makes a sprout of water shoot up from the ground every now and then, which is just very underwhelming, especially since his name is Wave Man. I mean, where are the waves? But Star Man just cosplays as a guy. He has a shield made of stars, except it's not actually made of stars. If those were real stars, then we would have a completely different conversation here and Mega Man would die. At least probably. I'm sure my subscribers could still beat Star Man just fine, but that's not the case. These stars are made of either metal or plastic, and regardless of which one it is not looking good for Star Man. I mean, Wave Man is probably more underwhelming, but the grim reality here is that Star Man is super weak. In fact, he is the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 5. Mega Man 6 has Centaur Man, who can once again freeze time. So you better believe that guy is not going to be the weakest Robot Master. But you want to know who else Mega Man 6 has? Plant Man. And yes, his boss fight is weak, we all know that, but we also know that we aren't judging these based off of the boss fight. But even ignoring the boss fight, let's think about this objectively. What does Plant Man do? He has a shield made of flower petals that he sometimes throws at you. And do you guys remember a few minutes ago when we were talking about how weak Woodman is? You know, because he throws leaf shields at you, made of leaves. Well, some leaves can actually be a little bit pointy and hurt just a little bit, just barely. Flower petals, on the other hand, are going to have a much harder time doing any amount of damage or causing any amount of pain to anyone. These would have to be poisonous in some way, but as far as I know, they are not. Meaning Plant Man is by far the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 6. I mean, we didn't even have to take a look at the other guys, which is sad because I love Nightman. Now it's time to move on to the second half of the Mega Man series, where somehow the Robot Masters are even weaker and more ridiculous, which is saying a lot after Plant Man. Mega Man 7 has a very weird cast of Robot Masters, but most of them are not really weak. I mean, look at Junkman. This guy digs around in the garbage, but he's still not a weak Robot Master by any means. Partially due to the potential of getting an infection from him, but still. Cloud Man is fairly powerful because I believe he has the ability to control the weather, but even if he doesn't, he has very strong electrical powers. Turbo Man is literally a transformer, and while I personally am not a big fan of Transformers, I would never call them weak. I'm also not a fan of Slash Man because he throws ketchup on you, which is really annoying, but Slash Man is by no means weak at all. I mean, he has Wolverine claws and throws ketchup. That ketchup is no jokes. Do not underestimate the ketchup. Shade Man is straight up a robotic vampire, which is very similar to a normal vampire, except robotic vampires are not allergic to garlic and they cannot be killed by wooden stakes, meaning this guy's even scarier than a normal vampire. Plus, it was just Halloween, so he's probably at his most powerful. Well, I mean, at least it was just Halloween recently when this video was released. I have no idea when you in the future are watching this, but feel free to comment down below what holiday is nearest to you right now. Unless it's Halloween, then we will not care. Freeze Man is our resident ice robot master, and while he is one of my favorites because of his sick design, he does seem a bit weak. Luckily, he does a lot of actual fighting moves, it looks like, so he isn't straight up weak, but his ice abilities are not doing him any favors. Burst Man, on the other hand, is fairly weak. He does have bombs, but they are encased inside of bubbles. Now for a quick history lesson. During World War II, Japan sent bombs on balloons towards the US aiming for the West Coast, but this didn't work out on account of the wind. Yeah, all the bombs missed, and that's why you've probably never heard of this happening, but I promise this is real, you can look it up. So that means Burst Man is super weak, but even weaker than Burst Man is of course Spring Man. Now Spring Man isn't stupid, I actually kind of like Spring Man, he just has a low power level. If he was playing basketball or I don't know, doing something where the spring is to his advantage, then he would be great. But for a fight, I don't understand this guy, which is why he is the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 7. Mega Man 8, I Mega Man hate, is what I would say if I was a liar, but I am not. I would never lie, I never have in my life. Anyway, we all know Astro Man cannot be the weakest because that man has black holes. that's stupid. Searchman is also pretty powerful considering he is a professionally trained military robot with camouflage and missiles, so he is not weak. Grenade Man is a literal grenade, which you could have probably figured out from his name, and while I do not think he is the most powerful bomb user we've seen despite him literally being a grenade, he's still not a weakling or anything to sneeze at. Bless you, by the way, if you just sneezed, but again, you shouldn't sneeze at Grenade Man. Frost Man might be something to sneeze at though, because he could give you a cold, and also he's a little bit weak. He's at least pretty big, but that's about all he has going for him. He just slides around his big old body towards you in your general direction in hopes that you get squished, which you just might. I mean, he is pretty big. Tengu Man, however, is a robot master I'm not really a fan of, but admittedly, he is pretty strong. Not only does he have those big old tornado holds that can shoot a robot into the air, but Tengu Man can also fly. That is a pretty useful combination of abilities if you ask me. Sword Man, on the other hand, is very unconventional. He is a sword user, so he's not weak, and he would be a great newcomer into Super Smash Bros, but he's just weird, which isn't a bad thing, well, unless it is. But this means the weakest robot master is between Clown Man and Aquaman, and this is a very tight battle. On one hand, Clown Man is a literal clown. On the other hand, Aquaman is just a nice guy. Aquaman is also a water user, which isn't the most powerful thing ever, but again, Clown Man is a clown. But luckily for Clown Man, he has some crazy electrical grappling hook. I don't know if he was inspired by Super Metroid or something, but this attack is actually fairly decent, whereas Aquaman has a water gun. Yeah, I don't know how this is possible, but Clown Man can't be the weakest. It turns out Aquaman is actually the weakest robot master from Mega Man 8. Oh yeah, Rockman and Forte time. You already know what time it is. Every robot master from this game is amazing, as we all know, and none of them are weak. But we do have to pick one. I mean, it is the point of this video, unfortunately. And well, they're all so strong, but I'm gonna actually have to go with Cold Man for one specific reason. And it's not because he's all that weak, because none of these guys are weak, really. Rockman and Forte is just an amazing game. But Cold Man has the ability to spawn in clouds and even an ice wall. But we've seen what Mega Man and Forte are able to do with the same ice wall, and it makes Cold Man look like a straight up dork. If Cold Man could utilize his own ice wall the same ways that they could, then we would have a completely different choice for the weakest, but he doesn't, so I'm sorry, Cold Man, but you've got to be the weakest robot master from Rockman and Forte. Mega Man 9 takes us back to 8-bit Mega Man, which is fitting because there are 8 robot masters for us to go over. Galaxy Man has black holes though, so obviously he's not the weakest. And Tornado Man has, you guessed it, tornadoes, and a lot of them, so he's not the weakest either. Magma Man has some pretty powerful fire moves, and we have established that fire is powerful and dangerous. But seriously guys, stop laughing at that guy's house getting burned down. It's still not funny. Splash Woman is a mermaid and is a huge threat to anyone underwater on account of her trident attacks, because that thing looks scary, so I am not going to call it weak. Concrete Man is just Guts Man, but a little bit better. Instead of being strong and throwing blocks, he can actually create the blocks himself as well as charge into you. He may not be as powerful as Galaxy Man, I mean, who is, but he's still not weak. Hornet Man is starting to get a little bit more on the weaker side because he's just a bee, but bees do hurt when they sting you, and Hornet Man can spawn a lot of bees, so I mean, he definitely has the potential to be annoying. Plug Man, on the other hand, I don't know how this guy is able to do anything without being plugged in. I mean, he's just a walking piece of conductive metal, but somehow he's able to shoot some sort of electrical attack. Maybe he has a battery mode or something, but he doesn't do much battering in this fight. That wasn't funny. That said, there is still someone weaker, being Jewel Man. Now, I love Jewel Man, and he is by far the prettiest robot master in this game. But that being said, what does he do? He just walks back and forth, and sometimes he has a diamond shield, or rather a shield consisting of 4 diamonds. You know what, I honestly wish Jewel Man would fight me in real life, because I would love to steal a few of those and sell them online because they look expensive. Either way, as much as I like Jewel Man, he is sadly the weakest robot master from Mega Man 9. Mega Man 10 has a lot of powerful robot masters, so let's start by getting them out of the way. Commando Man is a military robot with missile bomb things that don't seem very weak to me. Solar Man has the power of the sun, at least I think. Let's just assume he does. Nitro Man is a literal transformer, and he also throws blades at you that can climb up walls, so this guy might be the most powerful robot master, but you would have to watch the last video to know for sure. Chill Man is really cool, and while he is another ice robot master, which does make him a little bit weaker than some of the other guys, this guy's ice is spiky, which is a great improvement. Blade Man seems super powerful, and he's certainly not weak, but he's just a walking sword. I feel like for him to really meet his potential, he needs another person to pick him up and sling him around, you know, like how most blades are used in an attack, but he's still not the weakest, so whatever. Sheep Man seems pretty weak, but he actually has electrical powers and can turn into a cloud, which is just cool. Plus, he reminds me of Sheepwave, which would strike fear into the hearts of anyone who dares to fight him. Strike Man is just a baseball. That not only is ridiculous, but also is ridiculously weak. He does at least throw balls at you, so that is something, which is why he's not the weakest, because Pump Man throws bubbles at you, and only occasionally. Yeah, that's right, Pump Man just plays with bubbles during the entire fight, and then every now and then he'll throw one at you. I know they're like water drops, but they look like bubbles, and either way, getting hit with one of these would hurt a lot less than a baseball. So congratulations, Pump Man, you are the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 10. Mega Man 11 is a great game, and the final game of this video, and well, I hate to make things anticlimactic here, but there's only one real choice for the weakest Robot Master from this game. And honestly, it is the only weak Robot Master. So instead of going through every single one and pretending there's suspense, let's just say it, guys. Let's just put it out there. Bounce Man is the weakest. I mean, I love Bounce Man. What a silly guy. But this guy is a living bouncy ball. I don't know what the deal is with Bounce Man, but he is easily the weakest Robot Master from Mega Man 11. Those were the weakest Robot Masters from every Mega Man game 1 through 11. As always, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and if your favorite Robot Master was one of the weaker Robot Masters in this video, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with, you know, your favorite Robot Master being the weakest Robot Master from whatever Mega Man game they're from.